The St. Louis Blues had a very disappointing loss to the Minnesota Wild. Let's talk about it here on Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And a happy Wednesday, October 16th, and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, we need to address that loss to Minnesota last night, a deep dive into defense and what I think the Blues could potentially do, and when to judge a team. Is judging a team after 4 games enough time to see their true identity, or do we need to give St. Louis some more time? I will talk about that in today's episode. However, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And a happy Wednesday, St. Louis. I know last night was not as nice, obviously, with that loss to Minnesota, that 4-1 loss. It was a nationally televised game on ESPN, and I know that broadcast was absolutely brutal. One of my tweets on @LockedOnBlues, if you want to follow for some in-game live tweeting action. I said essentially how the ESPN broadcast was not good, along with some other problems. So let me go read you my takeaways. ESPN sucks. Nick Leddy is a problem. The offense looks slow. The refs sucked. Defense looked like trash. Suter is the best defender tonight. And ESPN sucks. Now, my friend JD from Locked On Cardinals agreed with what I had to say, and it was not a good game. Even Colton Parayko didn't look good. Now, the one positive I guess you can say is that and again, there's some positives, but the one that you can say is that Matthew Joseph did get his first goal as a St. Louis Blue. And Philip Broberg, by the way, has collected a point in every single game this season. So he is off to a good start for the offer sheet, Philip Broberg. So here's the thing. I know last night it did not go well whatsoever, and it was a brutal home opener. I know that all of us were excited to see the Blues in action, the comeback team. They came back against Seattle, San Jose, almost came back against the VGK, but just could not get a grip on this game. And, Minnesota, they are dealing with injuries, and that is something that is incredibly frustrating. After the game, Justin Folk, he even talked about that. Hey, this Minnesota team is dealing with injuries, but yet they're able to come out and perform well. And I think the one aspect of this game, and this could have been a turning point of the game, was the goal that Jordan Kyrou scored that was waved off because the ref didn't see the puck in play. Do you want my opinion on it? Well, I'm going to give it to you anyways. That bothered me a lot. After the game, Jordan Kyrou said that he had his eye on the puck the entire time and he never lost track of it. I believe the positioning of where the ref was an easy spot for him to see where the puck was, if that makes sense. Like he was right, like looking down on the net. And I just have a really difficult time believing that he really lost sight of the puck. I mean, he might have, and I hope that that's the truth. But it is frustrating, though, when the Blues just couldn't get any whistles, blown their way, so to say. I felt like this was a Minnesota home opening game rather than a St. Louis home opener, just due to how the Blues were treated last night, maybe just in general of the broadcast. I made a joke on Twitter that at one point the glass was a little bit messed up, and one of the maintenance people that works for the Blues went on the ice and fixed it. And I'm like, that is the player of the game, because this team just looked outskated. They looked fatigued. They looked everything that was my biggest fear heading into this season. I mean, I like Matthew Kessel a lot. Okay. I just didn't think that he had a good game. I mean, at the end of the day, here's the thing. This team just has to perform better. It's not one individual player. It's so easy to do that, right? When you watch a game and to choose one individual player that needs to step it up. It is the whole entire team. I thought Jordan Binnington, I love him. And I'm not going to judge too hard. However, he did not have the best game last night. Collectively, this team just did not look right. I think that on the goal that was waved off, Robert Thomas had a great pass to Jordan Kyrou. But after that, I didn't see anything from Robert Thomas last night. So when I'm evaluating the game, I didn't think Colton Parayko looked good. I don't think Nick Leddy looked good. I thought Ryan Suter looked like the best defenseman out on the ice. That to me is a problem. Why is Ryan Suter, and this is not a dig on Ryan Suter, this is actually kind of like a compliment to Ryan Suter. Why is he the best defenseman I saw on the ice last night for the St. Louis Blues? When he was supposed to be a player heading into the season that was supposed to be playing limited minutes. A player that we all predicted, oh, maybe he'll play 16-ish minutes a game, not even. How come he was the best defenseman last night? The most aggressive, the most passionate, the smartest one on the ice? Beats me. I mean, the Blues also have a turnover issue. It's just a lot of problems. And again, it's a team. It's not just an individual player. And I think that's something that's very important to point out because it's so easy, right, to kind of just, blame one player. But in the first period, on the power play, only about 3 minutes into the game, Ryan Hartman was able to score. And that kind of, to me, I don't want to necessarily say set the tone, but it was immediate that the Wild got on the board. Second period, middle of it, Wild score again, but this time short-handed. So now you have two special team goals for the Minnesota Wild heading into the final frame down 2-0. 46 seconds into that final frame, Marco Rossi is able to get the Wild a goal. Okay? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. How is it that you can go in the locker room during intermission and regroup knowing that you're down 2-0 and then play slow enough to where the opposing team is able to get themselves a goal? Doesn't make sense. About halfway through, Matthew Joseph, as I said, was able to record his first goal of the season with being on the Blues. And he was assisted by Bolduc and Philip Broberg. So Zach Bolduc, again, I don't think he had a great game. He just wasn't positioning wise where he needed to be. Philip Broberg, same thing, just looks slow on defense. He's more of, I always say, two-way defenseman, right? But that's literally what Philip Broberg is. I think he plays better up front. And then a goalie goal happened. Now, usually this would really annoy me, and it did in the moment. I took the day, I was kind of like thinking back to the game. And I'm like, oh, that is, that's kind of like cool in a way. Like, I never really have seen a goalie goal like that. And that was scored by Philip Gustafson of the Wild, and Marc-Andre Fleury was like on the bench, and they made like a whole big deal about it. I mean, Gustafson did come to the team like a little huddle during before they ended up taking the power play, but yeah, that's how the night went. And it's on all this like national media, like radio stations and TV. Oh, a goalie goal in last night's Wild win over the Blues. And I'm like, this is so embarrassing. I'm like, of course the Blues are on the other side of it. But it was an empty netter, by the way, for St. Louis. I just want to put that out there that Binner was not in net. So could you imagine, honestly, if the St. Louis Blues had their goalie in net and a goalie goal still happened, that would be an all-time low. But no, it was an empty netter. So that is how last night went. Very cool for the Wild. And I do like Marc-Andre Fleury. I do like him a lot his last season in the NHL. However, he wasn't playing last night, and the emphasis the entire game was on him. And it makes me wonder, are the Blues not getting recognition from the national media because they don't think that they're a contending team. Because they did say, "Oh, yeah, these 2 teams are on the cusp of, potentially being playoff contenders." And then they just talked about the Wild the whole time. So does the national media think that the Blues are not worthy of being talked about because they are not good enough? Hey, listen, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. However, that is something that did pop in my head last night when thinking about, whoa, they are not talking about the St. Louis Blues. But you know what I do like to talk to you about? That is my friends over at Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Price on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Listen, it is postseason baseball right now. And I just want to see the Dodgers beat the Mets. They play the Yankees, and then the Dodgers win because of Shohei Ohtani. I'm a big Shohei Ohtani fan. So with Game Time, you were able to find the tickets that you want. So if you want to go to the NLDS or ALDS or CS, wow, it's NLCS. See what happens when I wow. Yeah, baseball season is moving fast. So definitely check out Game Time for that. So this is what you can do. You get your last minute deals so you can save up to 60% buying last minutes for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. You get your flash deals and you get your zone deals. But one thing that I love about Game Time, and I tell you this all the time, is that not only do you get the lowest price guarantee, you get to see exactly the view you will be seeing if you bought those seats. That is right. So they have seat views, which is the coolest feature in the app. I do this all the time. Honestly, I look at different concerts and different events, and I'm like, if I went, where would I be sitting and how would I be able to see the venue in whichever way? And I do it all the time. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So when it comes to the Blues defense, I kind of hinted at this earlier in today's episode about some problems that I noticed on defense. And one of those problems was Nick Leddy. Now, Nick Leddy didn't practice today. He did take a puck yesterday to his lower, I believe it was like his leg area yesterday during the game. And report is that Nick Leddy is day to day. Bannister said something was bothering him yesterday. He was fine to play last night, and it popped up again today. I'm not really sure what exactly is happening with Nick Leddy, right? And I do hope he is okay, but it does make me kind of wonder something. And, well, do you give either P.O. Joseph or Scott Perunovich a chance on defense? I'm not saying to healthy scratch Nicoletti, right? And again, he's injured, so that's different. But I mean, at the time last night, he was healthy. And I thought, why not give Scott Perunovich a chance, P.O. Joseph a chance? Because Nick Leddy, the turnovers, all of it, it was costing the Blues. And it was so frustrating to watch. So luckily, my friend Jeremy Rutherford, who does amazing work for The Athletic, posted today's lines and pairs. And I'm going to obviously read you all of them, but emphasis is on defense, right? So this was from today. On the first line, it is Robert Thomas and Brandon Saad and Jordan Cairo. Second line is Bushi, Bolduc, and Neighbors. Third line, Shen, Holloway, and Matthew Joseph. Fourth line is Foxa, Torbachenko, Kapanen, and then extras were Texier, Walker, Sundquist. Let's go talk about defense now. I thought this was very interesting. So on the first defensive pair, it is Ryan Suter and Colton Parayko. Before I continue on, I did mention that Suter was the best defenseman I saw last night take the ice for the Blues. And today at practice, he is now playing on the first pair alongside of Colton Parayko. What does that tell me exactly? It tells me that Coach Bannister does see when a player is playing well and working hard. I don't care if, Suter was coming into the season to play about 16 minutes or so. If he is displaying that he is an asset on defense and he's going to help improve the defense, why not try it out? I mean, this is what the early stages of the NHL season is all about. It is about trying new things and new combinations. Personally, I am happy about this, and I am really hoping that Suter will be able to start alongside Parayko if, again, Nick Leddy is out. Then on the second pair, it is Philip Broberg and Justin Folk. On the third pair, it is P.O. Joseph and Matthew Kessel. Now, Perunovich was the extra one, right? Scotty P. And I thought it was interesting that they put P.O. Joseph alongside Matthew Kessel. I mean, obviously we saw Scott Perunovich and Kessel before, but I think that this, again, is maybe an indication of, well, we have two guys that were not playing, right, because of the extra defenseman. Why not take that chance? And I think that P.O. Joseph, give him a shot. I don't really necessarily care which one of the two you give a chance, but you need to try out some new combos on defense because I really like Colton Parayko. And I do like Leddy. However, we need the Blues to be more consistent on defense. And if that means that Nick Leddy maybe drops down and he plays on the third pair or just something, maybe that will be a better fit. Okay. Tomorrow, the Blues, they're hosting those New York Islanders for 7 p.m. puck drop. And I highly doubt Nick Leddy is going to play. The reason why I say that is it's day to day. It is the day before a game. Do I think Nick Leddy is going to wake up tomorrow morning, go to morning skate and say, yeah, I'm 100% better? No. Obviously, if something in his leg was bothering him even a couple of days prior and he played, and then after the game, he's saying, yeah, it doesn't feel right again. That tells me that maybe he needs some rest or he just needs to stay off of it. But I thought that was an interesting situation, right? Coach Bannister did talk about Nick Leddy and said he's going to be a better player for us, and I believe he will be. Yeah, you want to give him some time to work it out. But in the same sense, we can't keep losing games or continuing to make the same mistakes. And listen, I get accountability. I get, defending your players to a sense, but the turnovers and just the lack of awareness that I saw displayed by him last night was very concerning to me as a fan. And we cannot make excuses for players who have been in this league for a long time making silly mistakes. I know Coach Bannister also said, every player makes mistakes. We had a lot of mistakes on the ice. It wasn't just him. But here's the thing, Coach Bannister. Well, yes, there was mistakes made, but what are you going to do to address one of the bigger mistakes from the game that was a very obvious mistake, right? So here's the thing. This is what Bannister said about Suter. I think Suter has played really well, and he's a veteran player who's played in those situations before, and I think he deserves the opportunity. I also think, though, that it is a little stupid, though, of Perunovich not playing. And I think you could also make the argument of, okay, well, let's maybe give Perunovich an opportunity tomorrow as well, and maybe not P.O. Joseph. I mean, at the end of the day, or don't even, well, no, you have to play Suter if he's your best defenseman at the moment. I know Colton Parayko is. I'm just saying at the moment, Ryan Suter looked to be the best defenseman last night. But what was the point of re-signing Scott Perunovich if you're not going to play him? Let me know in the comments down below, everydayers, because I am genuinely curious. Do you think it was a mistake that the St. Louis Blues signed Perunovich to another year if they're not going to play him? Because to me, this seems foolish. You're playing against the New York Islanders. Oh, geez. Here I go again. It was a bad loss last season when they were in New York, and I don't want to talk about it too much. However, you need to give Perunovich a chance. Because when I take a glance over at the schedule, they play the Islanders and then they're hosting the Hurricanes um, at home, and they host the Jets at home. And then they're on the road for a series of 4 games with the Maple Leafs, the Canadiens, the Senators, and then the Flyers. So I think, at least for me, I would not play Perunovich against the Hurricanes nor the Jets. So tomorrow is a perfect opportunity to play Scott Perunovich, and I don't see the harm in it. You know, and again, the Islanders right now, they are 1-1-1. Not really standing out to me too crazy, and I will do a deeper dive on them tomorrow. So I just am saying that Scott Perunovich should be playing tomorrow. But let's talk to you about something that you can always play, and that is FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's fanduel.com to get started. Now, last week I told you what to do. I said for you to take those Detroit Lions over the Dallas Cowboys. And all of you that did that, it worked out well for you. So when I'm looking at Thursday night football, Broncos and Saints. And I would take the Saints, okay? But with FanDuel, you can do this as the game is going on. So if you want to take, Mr. Carr to throw 2 touchdowns and the games began and you're like, I don't know. Just head to FanDuel.com and use that code locked on. And just go to FanDuel.com. Like, all you need to do. So I was thinking of the Gametime app, which you can use locked on NHL, which you can also do. We have a lot of good deals coming out today. All right. When to judge a team. So 4 games have gone down for the St. Louis Blues. You have that win against the Kraken, the win against the Sharks, the loss against the VGK, and the loss against the Wild. So the Blues are 2 wins and 2 losses. And is it too early to judge this team? I think you can judge some of the things that players are doing, but I don't think it's fair to be able to judge the entire team and say this is their identity, right? I think that takes time to really come up with a team's identity. I think you can judge the fact that, the offer sheets seemingly are working out well with Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg. I am so impressed with Holloway. You can also say Jordan Kyrou has been looking good and being aggressive by net. I don't get that Kyrou haters. I mean, I think he has played really good hockey the past couple games. You can then also say that Bushi is looking good too in the second line. Braden Shen as well. He had that OT winning goal, and it was pretty dang cool to see. Robert Thomas is always looking good. Defensively, I think it's safe to say that maybe the defense isn't as strong as we wanted it to be. But again, you do have P.O. Joseph and Scott Perunovich that you could easily utilize, but you're not. So I don't understand that. I think you can judge that Coach Bannister is willing to change up some combos and do things that are a little bit, I don't want to say risky, but just something that maybe he didn't do as much last season, which is taking some more chances. I think here's the thing with the Blues. And I got into this conversation today with somebody actually about it. Last night's loss, yeah, it was ugly, okay? Somebody said to me today, the Blues are not a good team. And you know what I said to them? How do you know that? We have only seen them play 4 games. From what I observed in these 4 games, 3 out of 4, the Blues started from behind. The only game where the Blues had the initial lead was against the VGK, which they ended up losing. But that was when Bushi scored right away. I see a team that's resilient, that is willing to come back, a team that is willing to take ownership. Tomorrow's game will be interesting because the Blues are on a 2-game losing streak right now, which might not seem major to anybody, but to me, I want to see how they come out of this. I want to see how they react. Is this a team that is going to come out of this little bit of a 2-game slump, so to say, and just put on a show right away? Or are they going to start off slow again? From what I've observed so far, they don't come out attacking right away in that first period. Maybe against the VGK a little bit more so, but I am curious to what they do tomorrow against the New York Islanders. Again, that puck drop is at 7-hour time. I will talk to you tomorrow. I know this is a little bit more of a down episode, right? Because it wasn't the results we went out on ice last night. But again, it is something that the Blues have full control over doing is improving. I also want to point out before I end today's episode that during the Blues intro for, introducing like the players, the coaching staff, we saw Torrey Krug. He came out on one of those medical scooters and he got a loud applause. And it breaks my heart that he can't play this season. So it was nice seeing him get greeted by all the wonderful fans at Enterprise. All right, I will talk to you tomorrow, St. Louis. And like always, how I end every single episode, let's go Blues.